you all for gathering here. Um, I am super excited, so I just wanted to welcome you. I think my most favorite people are on this call, and Dr. John and I have been spending a great deal of time together getting to know one another and talk about the potential of sharing this temperament profile and the work that he's made as life work, honestly. So I just wanted to welcome. We're hosting this from the Love Store Studio. So for those of you that aren't members today, this is a peer-to-peer support community that has brought together, I think, some of the most beautiful individuals that I've probably had the pleasure of meeting in my lifetime. And they come from walks of life that make up artists and crafters from home to energy healers and alternative coaches, such as Love and Authenticity Practitioner, which is a group that I came out of. And we've just been assembling this safe online community that's a nurturing space for many of its members. I think we're about 300 members strong now. And we're super excited about the evolution that we've been through and some of the artists community that we're tapping into, because art helps to heal from a mental health and just a mental personal growth space. So it's been a really amazing journey so far. We're a couple of years old, and Dr. John and I met through Alignable of all places. He sent me a message and asked me if I'd ever heard of a temperament profile, and I just wanted to share that my initial reaction to that was, temperament? I'm not angry. I don't have I immediately equated it to a negative connotation, so I hesitated in my response to him. But I did want to introduce Dr. John properly, because I think his background is just so impressive. And for those of you that don't know him, Dr. John Worley he has a PhD. He's a clinical psychologist and a temperament expert and author, and the creator of this WIDP profile and assessment tool that I've been talking about, that is psychologically concrete, dependable, and reliable. And what I really loved is that he's taken those 40 years of clinical experience, where he spent time developing organizations and individuals and doing a lot of seminars and certifying individuals on WIDP, which stands for Worley's Identity Discovery Profile, and really maximizing individual and group success. So he's also the co-founder of the Leadership Development Association, known as LDA, which specializes in executive development and human relations. So just a tremendous background, Dr. John, and thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to share that I went through the temperament profile, and for those of you that have been kind of part of my inner circle, you've probably been seeing a lot of the changes in me as I've embraced a lot of the things that the temperament profile and Dr. John has helped me to uncover. So I wanted to just pull us together today and let Dr. John talk a little bit about his background and how he came to create that. And so we wanted to share a little bit of that story. Are you ready to go, Dr. John?
I'm ready. I'm prepared.
Awesome. So I had a couple of questions that I put together for Dr. John, and he is an open book when it comes to sharing the work here. So we want this to be interactive. We want you to ask questions, but we do have a couple of questions just to kind of draw out the background and the depth of his work around this temperament profile. So we're going to start with the famous, what is your why? And I always talk about that. Is the reason that we do things. And Dr. John, how did you realize that the world needed to learn about temperament? And when did you come up with that idea to really create this systemic tool that you did to measure the temperament profile?
Well, I've always worked with people throughout my entire life, practically, even starting in high school. I was a class president of my senior class, and I always worked with people as a leader, one way, shape, or form or another. And when I got into the military, I was in the military for 14 and a half years. And so I was a leader there. And so I enjoyed working with people. I enjoyed guiding and directing people. And I always saw the emotional side of people as always being a stumbling block in communications. And it was always an issue wherever I went. When I got out of the military, I was injured in Vietnam, and I had 14 and a half years in the military, but I spent the better part of 2 years either in the hospital or flat on my back at home because of the pain and the damage that I had to my body. I got hit down across the head and in the back. But during that period of time, I was studying and looking at various schools that I wanted to go to because I was a late bloomer. And after having 14 and a half years in the military, and during that 14 and a half years, the latter part of it, I was a military recruiter. So after that, I was a career counselor. So I was always working with people. And when I got out of the military, I went on to college and seminary and was a veterans counselor in college and in seminary, helping veterans get their benefits and counseling veterans and counseling students. And when I graduated from seminary, then I opened my private practice because I got licensed in the state of Massachusetts as a licensed mental health clinical counselor and also as a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I opened my private practice and I started doing third-party billing and insurance and ended up billing over 127 insurance companies I was listed with and billing. And I had a very, very successful practice, 30 years in Groton. And I have dealt with just about everything that you could possibly imagine under the sun when it comes to personal issues of life. I don't care what they are. I've dealt with them. I've found out what my strengths are, and I've also found out what my weaknesses are when it comes to dealing with various mental health issues and personal issues that people bring to you. But what I found out was that in my formative years of studying and preparing to minister to people, I started pursuing academic excellence to become qualified on these various psychological instruments that are available out there in the market. And there are many of them. You get the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the DISC, the Taylor-Johnson Temperament Analysis, the PUM, the Strong's assessments, and they go on and on, these instruments do. So I decided that I was going to become proficient in all of them because I was going to help everybody. I knew that I was going to be well equipped and I was going to get out there and become professionally armed, and I was going to have all the professional psychological assessment instruments in my quiver, and I was going to help everybody get them all fixed. And so I had thousands of dollars worth of these instruments in my file cabinets. And here I am going to this certification, getting certification, coming back, applying it to my clients for months of finding out that it didn't work. This instrument just doesn't do what I wanted to do because I applied the information that I've been trained on, only to find out that it worked for that one session. But the next time the person walks in my door, they've got a whole completely different scenario going on because of their emotional makeup. I'm missing the target in my clients, and I don't know why. I'm missing the target in my organizational development, working with organizations, and I don't know why. Because I'm missing the mark because I don't understand the emotional side of people. I don't understand what their needs and desires are. I'm missing that part. So after, I don't know, 10, 12 years, 15 years of stumbling through that, all this time I'm working on, I've got to create something that's going to work. So I started out and I come to discover a foundation of an instrument that is the foundation of WIDP that allows me to assess you and determine what your needs and desires. So there's the two key words, what your needs and desires are in 3 areas of your life. And those 3 areas are your social orientation, which is social and your professional orientation, whatever that may be, your leadership orientation, whether you want to be led or like to lead, and 3, your relationship orientation. Do you want to be intimate, and with how many people do you want to be close and intimate with? It further breaks those 3 areas down into the areas of how you demonstrate towards people socially, how you demonstrate towards people as a leader, and how you demonstrate towards people in close, intimate relationships. Now, here's the winner about this instrument. It also determines what you want back from people socially, what you
Mm.
want back from them when it comes to them leading you or trying to lead you, and what you want back from them in close, intimate relationships. No other instrument on the market out there will do that for you. WIDP does, and that will change your life because we're actually looking at you kind of like a chessboard that has 6 different pieces. You've got your 3 pieces of social, leadership, and relationship, and each of those are broken down into how you demonstrate towards people and what you desire back from them. So you've got those 6 components of you, of your makeup, of your temperament makeup. Now, here is the thing about temperament. Temperament is static, it does not change ever. And the people out there in the world of psychology, they use the 4 terms of temperament, character, personality, and behavior as all being synonymous. And they use them interchangeably all the time. You can go out there and pick up any kind of book you want to pick up on, any kind of publication that deals with psychology and assessments, and they're going to use those terms in a multitude of different ways interchangeably. But I don't agree with that. I believe that temperament is permanent because it's determined at conception. And your temperament never changes. You're the person that you are now, and you haven't changed. Your genetic makeup has not changed since conception. And that's what temperament identifies who you were determined at conception. And that's what it measures. And that's what it focuses on. So when you run your profile, it's only 60 questions. It takes you 7 to 10 minutes to answer the questions. And when you read your profile and you get your information back and you look at it, you will not believe what you see on the written page, because it's like looking at yourself in the mirror, except you're seeing yourself in black and white for the first time. And it's going to stagger your mind because you won't believe that it's so reliable and accurate.
So, so can we talk a little bit about that? Because I want to share a little bit about this reaction that Dr. John is talking about, and it is looking at yourself in a mirror. And my first reaction was, okay, these questions, these 60 questions that as I went through the temperament profile myself, I'm like, what do you mean? What do I need here? And then he asks the same question again in a different way, in a different order. And it felt a bit repetitive to me. And then to see what came out on the other side to tell me that, and I'll just pull a couple of words from my own profile, but it, it was it was a state of permission for me. And I just want to say that because instead of me going, and one of the words in here is, she may endlessly analyze her behavior and perceive fault. What's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? What did I do wrong? You know, when I would always think about that when someone would turn away from me in a relationship, or if I wouldn't respond and have my boss actually understand what I was saying to him or her. And I would question myself. I was always questioning myself. Or I need daily time alone just to kind of unpack from the stress of the day. And I always used to kind of fault myself for that, right? Like, oh my gosh, I really just need like 10 minutes of quiet so that I can recharge my batteries. Or I really feel like I need a nap, but I got to keep grinding. You know, there were things like that that were in my profile that gave me that affirmation and permission to truly just finally let go of everything I was trying to hold on to and give myself permission to be me. The other thing that I also realized, and Dr. John helped me through this, is that how other people perceive me was really an area of challenge for me. It's an area of weakness so much that I would hold myself back. I wouldn't step out into my greatness, or I was afraid of my greatness because I was so afraid of rejection and failure. And once that profile really drilled home, like, this is what you are dealing with, this is your perception of other people, and then what you need them to actually perceive you as, that's what kind of clicked into place. So Dr. John, let me ask you a question. In my profile, I know that there are some common traits and characteristics that you find in profiles as you've profiled people over the years. But why now is this so important to our society, to people living in our society, especially with today's times post COVID? Is there some nugget that we can take away from with our temperament to help thrive better in the communities around us as we'd reach out? There's a really big shift that's happening, I think, in society. And how does the temperament help, especially in today's time?
Well, I believe that society is restless to begin with. And that restlessness has to do with inner turmoil because your emotional needs are not being fulfilled as an individual because of the fractured society that we live in. So when you live in a fractured society to begin with, and we do, it's global, then you have to deal with it emotionally and physically and financially in every way possible. And in order to deal with it and keep up with it, you, instead of trying to keep up with what's going on out there, you've got to take care of what's going on inside of you first in order to be able to maintain harmony with what's going on out there, because the external world is out there to get you. It's not going to protect you. It's going to take advantage of you every way it possibly can. And you have to protect yourself because you are valuable and you are the only one that's going to be able to defend yourself to the nth degree. Nobody else is going to do that for you. And the more you know about yourself and your intrinsic design that was determined at conception, the more familiar you become with your vulnerabilities and your assets that are there from design. You're going to be powerful. You're going to be empowered. You're going to have the ability to be able to do things and see things about yourself that you haven't seen before because of your understanding of your temperament. Because your temperament is unique and you're only the only person that there will ever be that's like you. There's only one of you and never be another. And so we can't rubber stamp you as all being alike. But what we can do is we can take your 6 components of your temperament and we can fine tune you by teaching you about how valuable you are and bring to the forefront the assets that you're unaware of because they've never been proven or shown to you before, because they're just laying dormant in your understanding and lack of understanding. But once they're revealed to you, you're going to have many aha moments. And it's going to change your life and how you feel and think about yourself and how you think and feel about other people, because you're the one that's in control of your life and nobody else should ever be in control of your life or your emotions except you. And we teach you how to do that based upon your temperament design. And there's no such thing as a bad temperament. Nobody has a bad temperament. Everybody's temperament is what you are from design, and that's perfect. And you just need to know how to work with it and know where your Achilles heels are. That's all. And how to deal with them.
I love that. So should we go through, you want to go through mine and show a little bit about how
Sure.
the temperament profile breaks down? And I'm happy to share that all because I think I have some common themes in myself that I've resonated with many people around me. And so I'm happy to use myself as an example just so you guys can understand the real journey. So I'm going to share my screen really quick.
Can I
I
just-
have my,
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt? Because
of course.
is it, or can we wait till the end to ask questions? We can ask questions
No, go
along
ahead.
the.
No, please do.
Oh, okay. Doctor, you talked about the temperament, and you mentioned 6 components that determine each one of us. That determine the temperament of each one of us, which is unique to us. And you said that it is unchangeable. It is like constant, and it becomes genetic,
Yes.
right? Did I get that right? Okay.
That's correct.
What I want to share with you is my discovery of the epigenetics. I am a big fan of it and I believe in it 100%. I believe that no matter what struggle goes within each one of us, that we think it's genetically caused, we can go beyond it because we can change the environment and we change the DNA expression within our genes. Where does that fit in the temperament? I mean, people can be born into a situation or two conditions that are stronger than them. I believe that 1 or 2% of the disease, like physical diseases, are caused by genetic default. Now, all the behaviors acquired during the lifetime can be changed just by changing their belief system. Can that apply to the temperament?
No, it will not apply to the temperament. You're talking about behavioral modification.
Okay.
And behavioral modification is possible, but when you're modifying the individual's behavior, you're dealing with character, you're dealing with personality, and you're dealing with behavior all at the same time. All of those are fluid, and they can change based upon the individual's environmental focus. So if I pick you up from where you're living right now and put you in a completely different environment opposite from where you are currently today, as the longer you spend in that brand new environment, the more your characterization is going to change, the more personality is going to change, the more your behavior is going to change and take on that environment, because that environment will shape and mold you accordingly, and you will become part of that environment. And it may take years to do, but you will ultimately change according to that environment, yes. But your temperament is static and it will not change.
What do you define
Because,
as? Ooh, sorry.
that's okay. It's okay. So go ahead.
So what I'm defining is your temperament, which is determined at conception, that's genetic, that's the part that never changes. What does change is your character, personality, and behavior.
So can I give an example for the group?
Yes, please.
So I want to use the example that Dr. John just spoke of, where the fear of rejection, the inability to share my intellect in large groups with others, is something that was one of my weakest areas in my temperament. And I didn't really affirm that until I read my temperament, but it certainly explained the behavior that I was exhibiting. I was a corporate trainer in Salt Lake City, and I moved and I came to Florida, and that's a perfect example of being lifted up by choice and moving to another area. The characteristics of the beach life versus the snow life didn't really affect me. I mean, I do things differently, but that fear of rejection, that fear of sharing knowledge or speaking, that has been with me my entire life. And that's an example to me of how my temperament hasn't changed. But before, I used to see it as a weakness or fault myself or self-criticize. But now I just know that it's there and I can work around it. But prior to this temperament profile, it was something that I shamed myself all the time, going, "You're stupid. How could you?" So that self-criticizing talk is something that would traumatize me myself way further than someone that a boss or a corporate colleague of mine would ever do.
Don't you agree that fear is caused by a previous trauma stored in your subconscious mind that you're not aware of until you are, and then you can change it?
I believe that the element of fear resides within all of us to a certain degree as a self-preservation.
Agreed.
So you're right. Yes, we all have an element of fear. And another thing, there are 5 different temperaments, and all 5 of the temperaments have a certain element of rejection, fear of rejection. It's just human nature. None of us in this meeting want to be rejected.
None.
Everybody wants to be accepted, and temperament, when you start understanding temperament, we begin to understand what are our real needs and desires. I mean, we're flesh and blood. We have feelings, we have emotions, and they're real. And we're not trying to hide them or push them out. We're trying to bring them in and understand them to a deeper degree so that we're fulfilled. and realize and understand that we're not thinking inappropriately, that we're on the right track of humanity, and that we're going down the right path of being fulfilled, and we're not ostracizing society as a whole. We're only focusing upon our own fulfillment as an individual, taking care of ourselves, which is what we should do first, because we can't be effective in enabling the quality of life of others and improving their quality of life and being an asset to them when we're dysfunctional. We've got to fix our own dysfunction first, and we got to understand ourselves better so that we can be more empowering to those that we're working with.
That's exactly what I mean. I mean, fear of rejection comes from a trauma. If we get to detect where the trauma comes from and heal it, that fear of rejection will disappear, because the person will realize that their self-worth and their value, that they don't even contemplate that somebody will reject them.
As they begin to look at their temperament and get closer refinement on understanding who they are based upon their temperament, they then can reinforce themselves psychologically and build that psychological framework to reinforce themselves so that they don't run into that fear as frequently as they do. So they build up a wall that protects them from the onslaught that comes in from the outside. Because think of this now, fear only affects you as long as you allow it to, because it's a thought process. You have to entertain the thought in order for the fear to take hold, and you have to ruminate about that in order for it to be effective in your life.
Absolutely. I
So
believe that
you have to give it permission to function in your life.
absolutely. Absolutely. Fear is necessary for our survival. I believe it is. And at the same time, if we're not aware of it, I believe it's a frequency. As soon as we raise our awareness to say, this is not who I am, this is not my identity, it's just a frequency going through me, then it loses its power at the end. So it doesn't run our life. This is how I feel about it.
That's what adrenaline does. See, when fear comes in, adrenaline rushes into your system, and your heartbeat races up, and you flush, and you're excited, and you're going to stay that way until the adrenaline subsides in your system and the fear leaves your system. You know,
absolutely.
One of the best things we have going for us as humans is fear.
Otherwise, we'll be run by trucks or by chased by lions, and we'll be indifferent. We need that so we can fight or flight.
Yes, exactly. So understanding your temperament gives you a safeguard of protection that you don't have now, but you would have if you understood your temperament completely.
Awesome.
Whole different world of living, because your life expands in quality, and everybody needs a quality of life that's better than it is tomorrow, better than it is today.
Definitely.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and there's something very powerful about having you put the questions in, the answers to the questions to the profile, just like you've done any type of personality test, but then you get back almost yourself affirming to yourself. It's like mirror, mirror on the wall. And I say that jokingly, but it's coming back to me with my answers. And, it was just a very effective tool for me to affirm, okay, these are what my needs are going in. And then it comes back with this validation of, okay, you have a sense of rejection. You grew up, and Khadijah, to your point, I identified the source of trauma was my mother was a perfectionist, right? And there were many times when I would be doing some small household chore, and I identified this, but it didn't change that I still had that fear of rejection, because I grew up with conditioning around, that perfection. So something that I would do for her would be rejected because it wasn't perfect. It wasn't folded a certain way, or it was thrown on the floor, or whatever her trigger was for why that wasn't perfect was taken out to me. And then that created an amplification, if you will, of me not sharing what I would be offering, right? And that's perpetuated itself through my entire adult life. So I understood the trauma, to your point, but I also now understand I can work with my internally created fears. I have this internal created fear and I just work around it. I don't amplify it myself because I'm in control of me now and I understand me. And that's made a huge difference in my life since learning my temperament. And it's so much to the point that where I used to pull back from networking groups, right? And is now I'm embracing that and I'm embracing networking and sitting down with someone or going to groups and talking about what I do and what I know, because now I understand that I created the amplification of rejection more so than people actually think of that of me. So that's just
Okay.
one example that has really influenced me since learning my temperament.
Awesome.
Great
The
example.
the challenging thing for me is to get to know and define the traumas causing this certain behavior, certain feelings, because most of them are stored in our subconscious mind, and not everybody get access to it. You need a professional help to get to the bottom, I mean, of what causes your problems in your reality, so you can change it and change your reality. And that's where Dr. John comes in with his tools and his work to be able to give us the tools to actually know how to deal with these, our demons, like I call them.
Let me address an issue here. We all need assistance of some kind because none of us are perfect. So we all have our Achilles heels. We all have our baggage that we have accumulated coming up through life and getting to where we are today. So we all have trauma in our lives. We all have barnacles that need to be scraped off and cleaned off. But the most important thing is that we're responsible for directing our own path. And if we don't direct that path down a path of functionality and harmony and good, then we're not doing ourselves a favor. We're doing ourselves a disadvantage, and that's not productive at all. We have to begin to look at ourselves and realize that we're the only one here that's going to be able to take care of us. And if you haven't run your profile yet, you got to remember that when you answer the 60 questions, if you put garbage in, if you don't put the actual truth in of each question, then when you get your profile back, you're going to read the results and the results will not ring true to you. But here's the thing. If you answer the questions truly according to what your needs and desires are for each question, don't answer the questions based on what you think somebody wants you to say or what you think you should say or what you think the questionnaire master wants you to say. You answer them based on your intrinsic needs and desires. You're going to get the results back. It's going to be like you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You're going to say, how did he do this?
Yeah.
Somebody has a question.
So when you do it though, like I'm very new in the healing process. And I feel like when I'm talking to, I do EMDR, when I'm talking to my doctor, it's like, all right, am I answering this from my healed? I'm answering it from my healed state, not who I was a year ago. Correct?
Yes. You're answering it from, here's what you need to do. You need to look in a mirror and talk to yourself in a mirror, because what we have done here in our conversation, we've drifted over into the clinical side of our discussion, and we're discussing clinical issues which have to do with mental health. And that's okay because they go together. You can't separate them. So in your situation with EMD, you need to look in the mirror and communicate yourself. It's called self-talk therapy, and it's extremely beneficial and powerful. And the good part about it is nobody's there but you. And the good part about it is also you cannot lie to yourself because you know the truth. So when you look in the mirror, and it's awkward at first when you start speaking to yourself, but the more you talk to yourself, the more comfortable you become, and the more you're going to find out about yourself. And you're going to get down to the nitty gritty, and you're going to find out some answers that you've been looking for a long time. And it's going to validate you, confirm you, encourage you. And you're going to come away thinking, wow, I like that person. I'm learning something about that person I like. And you need to do that because you're worth it. You need to invest in yourself, because the more proficient you become with yourself, the more proficient you're going to become with helping other people and investing in other people. And that's what it's all about. That's what we're here for. That's what we're doing. But you
May I,
have the value. Yes, go ahead, Jenna.
I'm sorry. May I ask a question as well about the responding? So I have a tendency, historically, I've had a tendency to overanalyze questions in these types of surveys, questionnaires, situations. So my question is, do you find people's gut reaction to be more accurate, or once they've thought longer and analyzed it more to be more accurate? I'm trying to think about that and as I go into responding.
I can probably tell you what your profile is going to be, but yeah, you need to go ahead and go with your gut feeling.
Okay.
Your gut feeling is probably your intrinsic design speaking to your heart.
Okay.
Yes. And here's the thing about it, Gillian. You go ahead and do your first profile and you read the results. If you don't agree with the results, guess what?
I didn't do it.
That's
right.
right. You didn't. You weren't honest. You were not honest with yourself. Now let me wrap some flesh around that, because this is important. There are times, and I have profiled people, that the results came out different from what they realized. And the problem is they were codependent individuals. And a codependent person is somebody that their environment has shaped them inappropriately. Therefore, they're answering the questions based upon what they think they should answer, not instead of what they really want to answer and what the truth is. So they're going to get wrong results back because they answered the questions inappropriately, because of how they've been shaped and molded inappropriately in their character formulation. You understand that?
Yeah,
That's
completely.
important. That does happen occasionally, because there are a lot of codependent people in society. That's why there's so much disharmony in our society, is because of codependency. So you fold that into the problem, which is a clinical issue. Now the problem becomes bigger and bigger. You know, I can walk into a market basket or a store anywhere, and I can see codependency everywhere I go. It's just every place you go, you see it once you understand it, you know, and you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about codependency in the life of another individual. You can only do something about codependency in your own life, not another person. And that's something that has to be learned. It has to be taught. Anyway, so we're getting into the clinical side, but that's okay, because that's where we are. You can't get away from it. So, next question. The program.
I had real quick, when you were talking earlier, you were talking about how society, we have a fractured society, and that's where everything comes from. I think even deeper than that, I think generational trauma is something that is hurting people more because they can't escape their abusers because they're their parents or their sibling.
Great comment. Great comment. Let me wrap some data on that as well. Here's the thing with codependency in our society. Our society as a whole is in trouble, but we cannot go back and blame a generational curse on our parents or our grandparents or our great-grandparents. What I will say is that your temperament, our temperaments it's a genetic coding that comes from our parents or our grandparents, or a combination of the both. So if you want to see what you look like, all you have to do is go look at your parents, look at your grandparents, look at your siblings, look at your relatives. You're going to see yourself in them somewhere, and they're going to see themselves in you somewhere. Okay. But you're still a unique individual, and there's only one of you, and there will never be another. So being genetically coded, you're going to see yourself in a familiar situation in everybody in your family. but you're still unique and you're a design of one of a kind. That's what makes you special. And that's the person we're looking for. And that's the person we're identifying. And that's the person that we're undergirding and empowering through temperament. That's our program. That's what we're doing. And there's no such thing as a bad temperament. They're all good. It's just understanding yourself and allowing yourself to be who you are. And we're not here to change you. We don't want to change you at all. We want to let you be who you are and be free. You're in a cage now. We want to let you out of the cage to become all you can become with your temperament that is genetically coded in you already from birth, and build upon that beauty of who you are.
Yeah, it's a very empowering feeling for those of you if you haven't done the profile. And that's something that, we wanted to offer today. I think Dr. John has a special for the profiles. If you wanted to do that following today's session, you can email me at the Love Store Studio and I'd be happy to get you set up. And then we actually have, and Dr. John, maybe you can talk about the next couple of dates that we've set up today, where we're going to be on March 28th and March 29th. Offering a full day, 10 to 4, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., getting closer to being able to work with these profiles or your temperament, and then figuring out a way if you're in a practitioner type of a role and you're helping others or you're supporting others. Dr. John, can you talk a little bit about what those 2 days are going to entail?
Well, the certification program is, there's the basic program, 5 hours, and the advanced, which is additional 5 hours. And we do them back to back. The basic program teaches you how to run a profile. And when you get done with it, of course, you would own the software and be able to run profiles on everybody yourself. So we teach you how to run the profiles and how to interpret the profiles and what the profiles are all about. So when you come out of the 5 hours training, you will know exactly what a profile is and how to run it and how to debrief an individual on that profile. It's a very systemic program. It goes from A to B all the way through. And the penny will drop. When you start out, it's like taking a 500-piece puzzle and dumping it on the table. And I know you've probably all done that. And then you got to start putting it together. And that's what we do in the seminar. We put it together. And we put the temperament training certification puzzle together in the 5 hours. In the second class, the advanced class, is when we take it and we go into the detail end of it of doing assignments and looking at people's temperaments. And like I have 4 daughters, a wife, and I take all 6 of us, and I take our temperaments and put them all together. And I can show you exactly how all of us interact. And it's absolutely fascinating how we all interact and where the conflict is in every relationship in my family. And it's impressive when you see it. And I teach you how to do the same thing. You can evaluate yourself with one other person, with as many people as you want. You can do this cross-examination. There's 3 different ways we do it. And then in the second day, we also have exercises that you do, where I give you an exercise of taking 10 corporate people, 12 corporate people, and 12 different profiles. And then you have to match the profiles up with the 12 corporate positions. And you're able to do that at the end of the second day. You will be that proficient in using temperament. And then you start applying temperament to everybody in every situation. You become extremely proficient. And the more you use it, the more you want to use it because of the value you see in it. You want everybody to take a profile. You want to debrief everybody because of the value you see in it. It'll ramp you up. It'll get you excited. It really will. Because there's nothing out there on the market like it. Absolutely nothing. And when you do your own profile, you're going to say, oh, wow, how did he do this? How did he pull this off? You're going to be excited about it. You really will, because it's fascinating. And I wrote a book on it. Here's the first book I wrote. Inside Insight.
Right.
But this book is I'm replacing it with another book that I've written. I'm not calling it the second edition. I'm going to pull that book down off of Amazon Kindle. And I'm going to put my brand new book up and call it the first edition and just take that one completely down because of the errors. There's too many errors in it. And I'll probably be finished with the new book. I would like to say by the end of April, it'll be on Amazon. I just finished another book that I wrote. This one, Discovering Family Social Values. I just posted it up on Amazon Kindle, the edited version. I just posted it up this morning. Anyway, there's a lot of good things happening. I do have a new website that's coming out. It could be coming out any day. I've been working on it for 7 weeks. And the website that you go to my website right now, it's a nice website. It's got a lot of work in it, a lot of data there, but the new website's coming out and it's completely different. It is completely different. Whole new look and everything. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Connie and I are brainstorming and have some things in the works that we're doing, and look forward to working with any of you, and hope that you all would be interested in attending the webinar. Love to have you there because it's exciting. The more you learn, the more you're equipped, the better you are equipped to help other people. Transformational education is a big key word for me. Taking our education, the knowledge we have, and passing it on to the next generation or to the next person, the next company, you know. Leadership development. This is a powerful instrument for leadership. It's a powerful instrument for everything. If there's a person in front of you, it's applicable.
Okay.
I don't care what their job is. Doesn't make any difference.
Can I ask you a question, doctor?
You may.
Well, in my practice, I have some challenges, and I was wondering if when you do this method, would it help with addictive people? Like I have clients that have history of addiction or currently addicted. And it's a little bit challenging for me because of the behavior has been taken a big part of their lives.
Here's the problem with that issue is they're addicted probably because I have found out in working with a lot of addictive people over my career that they're addicted because of their temperament makeup, because they're analytical. And analytical people, the majority of our society is analytical people, 55, 56%.
Mm-hmm.
And those analytical people live in a hole all by themselves. And therefore, they feel like something's wrong with them because they are so analytical. Nothing's wrong with them. They're perfect. They don't know that they're okay. So they think that something's wrong with them. So they turn to drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, whatever it is. They turn to these
Of the above.
something to hold them up and to sustain them, to make them feel good. And next thing you know, they become addicted to drugs or medications or whatever, and they're in a trap. And you know, you go to AAA, alcohol is not the problem. The same thing is the problem is their analytical minds drive them to drink. You've heard that adage, that old cliche, they drive me to drink. Well,
Yeah.
That's why, is because their analytical minds can't fathom what they need to be fulfilled because nobody's ever taught them about their temperament makeup.
I totally agree with you because as a biologist, I understand the baseline of dopamine can come back to normal.
Yes.
And get rid of the addiction, but the behavior,
yes,
or the fear, or something beyond what they could see and what I could, guide them into, takes over. Like
Yep.
I have this client that he's been sober for a while, but he's always has that fear of relapsing over his head. So I know it's not physiological. I know it's not hormonal. It's just something beyond, like you say. And now I'm interested in doing this for him. So I could see it's not genetic because, it's not genetic. His family has no history of addiction or drinking, but he's got it, the only one in the family with this problem. So I fear I fail to see where is the genetic component into this.
The genetic component is the fact that he is probably so analytical that that's what has driven him into the dysfunctionality of the addiction. It's not a
Okay.
genetic problem. It's that his thinking process is the problem, because he's thinking inappropriately about himself, because he's not able to get his needs and desires fulfilled. Therefore, he's turning to alcohol or drugs to get that fulfillment. And that is not fulfilling him. That's why he's where he is. He's at the bottom of the barrel. You need to teach him about who he is based upon his temperament design.
Exactly. So we could
And
see
then
where it's coming from.
walk him out of that situation based upon his true value, based upon his temperament and the value of his temperament.
Okay.
He has value. He has value.
He does.
He's caught in a catch-22, and nobody has showed him the door, and you can show him the door to walk out of there.
I could use any help I can get. So would you agree for me to make him do this kind of
It's part of the process. Yes, I would. Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen,
And
everybody that walks into your office should be profiled. Every person.
I would love to be able to do that. That's why I'm interested in your method.
Absolutely. Everybody should be profiled. Yes.
yeah. And
I
Khadijah, I was going to share a use case that, so one of the systemic areas that I want to see this profiling tool put to use is, so I do a lot with technology, for example, and we're starting to work with, nonprofits and different organizations that serve the general public, not always in a clinician, type of an environment, but from a peer-to-peer mentoring or, space like that. And I think everybody should have access to some way of getting access to a profile. And I believe that, instead of shaming and blaming and that type of thing that goes on, like, oh, you should know better, and, the judging and the victimization, I think that this is a really empowering tool that gives you permission to understand yourself and to give you tools so that you can start layering, taking off those layers of masks or limiting beliefs and things that have held you in that jail cell or in that cage that Dr. John talks about, that you can, and that's really what I learned through love and authenticity, is taking off those layers, not putting more on, but taking them off so that you get to the true self that's in the middle, that's at the core of your being or your source. And that's, that was the last layer for me, was that I had to, I was finding it difficult to understand myself in a way that I could get rid of that inner judge that created that sense of rejection and failure. And that's probably the biggest aha moment for me. And now that I at least can work around it, it's allowing me access to areas of myself that I didn't know existed were so strong. I knew that they were there, but I didn't really understand how strong they were. And so that's really why, I believe that everybody should have access to the profiling tool. And that's a big part of what we've been talking about, is ways to make that available.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So wonderful. So we will be sending out some information about the 28th and 29th date. A little bit more for you to sign up for that, if that's an interest and it matches the path or the journey that you're on, and you want to spend that time with us.
I just have trouble with the time, because it's going to take almost a whole day. So I have to reschedule my sessions and see for these 2 days, right? 28th and 29th?
Yes.
Okay. I will have to reschedule my sessions to be available for these 2 days. Yeah.
Well, you're worth it.
Thank you. Thank you for believing in me, because you had my profile.
Yes, I do. Yes.
I jumped on it right away because I was really wanted to go deeper to see where, because I can detect a little bit for people, like see where their trauma comes in. And because I do two parts of my healing or my help that I can provide for people has the physiological part of it, which I use a tool called iridology. I have a doctor friend of mine. I work with him. Through the eyes, we could see where is the deficiencies, where is, you know, the potential illness that's going to occur in the next 10 years. We can prevent that from happening. But personality wise or trauma wise, or I could use lots of help and lots of techniques to get deeper, because, you know, just in the last 3 years, I would say 50% of the mental disorders increased, 50%.
Yes, yes,
So
yes. Clinicians are just inundated with clients today.
it's
Shortage of clients.
unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Especially teenagers and young kids, they're just like completely disoriented. A lot of them cut themselves, a lot of them have anxiety, a lot of them have eating disorders. So anything we could do to help, I'm open for it.
Is it,
Well,
is it Kadeha?
That's one
Is
of the things. Excuse me, go ahead.
Is that how you say your name?
Khadija.
Okay, I have just, if you want to offline at some point, I have been studying trauma super deep. I don't have any degrees or certifications, but I love,
don't either. I have
I love,
books that talks about trauma all the time.
yep, but if you ever want to offline about it, like I have internal feelings, you know, we could definitely do that at any point. So I just
Thank
wanted
you. Yeah, I'll
to
definitely be.
ask. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely take you on that.
Dr.
So
Okay.
John,
yeah,
I have
doctor.
I
Sorry.
have one question about how to, for one other person, how to effectively take the questionnaire. So in cases, one of the cases you mentioned where the temperament, the results may not come out accurate would be a case of codependency. And I believe that there's somebody that I'm thinking about for this, that could be very true for. In addition, that person has severe dyslexia and I think some reading comprehension issues. So I'm wondering what the best, and therefore I think that also has played into in the past and would play into maybe an inaccurate temperament profile. So I'm curious what your recommendation for that person would be in getting it done.
I would recommend that you read the questions to the individual and let them answer without requiring them to do the reading and the comparison, because you got answers, you got a question, and you got 6 answers. So they have to look at the 6 answers for each question. And that would be confusing for them, for dyslexic. So you would read the questions and let them answer the question and give you the answer, and you write it down for them.
Okay.
That's the best way to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And the profile is in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And it's for adults and youth age 6 to 16.
Awesome.
It's a Class A profile and a Class C profile. Class C is what clinicians would use because it's third-party billable to insurance companies. Class A profile is for use by everybody, does not require a master's degree. It's a Class A, it's a Class C profile stripped out with all the terminology and all the formulas and all the charts. It's just a straight profile.
Right. And that basic profile is what we wanted to bring to our Love and Authenticity family, to the Love Store Studio, because I tell you, as a Love and Authenticity practitioner who kind of coaches and works with clients, you know, one of the things that, again, going back to my temperament, didn't have the credentials, fear of rejection, but I knew intuitively how to have conversations with individuals to help them shift. The tool just brings that extra element of confidence where you can put those puzzle pieces together and then really start working on the blueprint for where they really want to be, because most people are in a gap. They're in a gap of I got longings and discontent, you know, while I'm in my current moment, and I really want to get to, you know, this dream life of mine or this dream goal, but I fall back to, default behaviors and patterns, and I get in my own way. I'm always in my own way. So those are ways that I tend to work with individuals. And the Love Store Studio has been about nourishing your own personal creation studio, because we all are creators. We all have beautiful magic inside of ourselves, but it's what we're creating. And when we get in our own way, that stuff that's coming out of that studio doesn't look the way we would love it to look. And then we criticize and self-judge. So that's what the point of the studio is about.
Yes.
So we're really excited about having this tool to bring to the community, and then find ways, Khadijah, to your practice, or, Jenna, or, Monica, for clients that you're working with. It just strengthens your toolbox. It gives you one extra tool that I think is really meaningful. So thank you again for joining us to talk today.
I
Thank you
would
for
so
having us.
much be interested in the course, but Wednesday is the only day where I'm earning a little bit of money at the moment, and I cannot cancel my Wednesdays.
Okay, well, maybe we'll poll the group and see, Dr. John, if we have these dates on the calendar. We can always run additional dates. We're just trying to find what's the best for the majority of the folks. But if we really have conflicts, I'm sure we can make some adjustments if we need to. We just set those dates today.
Yes, we can adjust.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do some polling, and we'll see how far out in advance, so we're not disrupting your current practice or your current clientele. We certainly don't want to create a negative ripple effect, but we also want to make sure that if you feel compelled, or this is really resonating with you, we want to make sure that we get you set up to get that certification if that's something you're interested in.
It's really resonating with me, because I even think my profile would show why I cannot find clients and sabotage my money, my income so much.
Your profile will tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that in a heartbeat. I can tell you a lot about you. Normally it takes me, if I do a proper debriefing of you, when I get your profile, all I need is the 6 numbers. It takes about 3 hours to do a decent debriefing.
So cool.
Yeah, 3 hours.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
You have a lot of value, and there's a lot there about you that you're not aware of, that you need to be aware of.
Tell me, I'll pay you whatever.
And they had 5 board members, and one of the board members was one of my affiliates. I had trained and certified him, and he was using the profile in his business, right? And he called me up one day. He said, John, he says, I need your help. He says, we've got a problem in-house. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, there's 5 of us on the board. He says, and we've got a problem. I says, well, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything. Just let me run profiles on all 5 of you. Let me determine where the problem is without talking to anybody, just by looking at your profiles. So he says, okay, so I set it up and I ran the profiles on all 5 of them. I looked at the profiles, I evaluated him, I called him up. I says, I know where your problem is. I said, it's this individual right here. I said, you got 3 options. Number 1, you can fire him. Number 2, you can buy him out. Number 3, you can let him go start his own business and support him and finance him in starting his own business. One of those 3. He says, I don't know how you do this. He says, but you hit the nail right on the head. He says, that is exactly the problem. They did. They let him, they didn't buy him out. They let him go start his own bank, his own business. They financially supported him to do that. The other 4 were so happy. Their bank, their business exploded. Point to where 5 years later, they all retired, closed the bank, sold it, and went off and retired.
Wow.
That's just one, just all because I knew what their profile numbers were and I could see it. I had another individual who was he was a corporate land developer, and he had 23 acres up in New Hampshire that he wanted to develop. He'd been trying for 6 years to develop it, and he couldn't. And he had gone through many consultants. So he brought me on as a consultant. And I was charging him $500 an hour. And I says, I can do this for you. I can show you. We'll get this baby right off the ground. In 9 months, he got his first check of $1 million as his bonus, went out and bought him a brand new BMW. He was a happy camper because I knew how to do it, because I took all of the people that he worked with. I evaluated all of them and I said, here's what you need to do, this, this, and this. He went and did exactly what, and I told him to do this according to your temperament makeup. And we did everything according to his temperament, and it flourished. In 9 months, he was really happy. He had developed the land, got $2 million bonus himself, took his first $1 million, went and bought him a new car. And then 3 weeks later, he got another $1 million bonus. It's powerful. It's powerful information. I had a client call me up and say, John, would you evaluate this client? Here's his numbers. He gave me his profile numbers. He says, talk to him on the phone. So I talked to him on the phone. I says, well, you're this, this, this. He says, how do you know all this information about me? I says, well, I'm a temperament expert. I said, all I need is your profile numbers. He says, can I call you next? This was on a Thursday. He said, can I call you back next Tuesday? And I said, yeah. He called me back next Tuesday. He said, listen, he says, and I was only on the phone with him 5 minutes. He called me back next Tuesday. He said, listen, he says, I'll buy this profile. He says, but I want to buy the software. How much is it? And I says, $5,000. He says, okay. He says, I'll put that on my credit card right now. He says, can I come up there for the training? I said, sure. He says, do you have a place where I can land my Learjet? I said, yeah, I'll find a place. We'll put you in out here at Fort Devens. He says, okay. Well, unfortunately, his office was in the 110th floor of the World Trade Center. He was not there when it went down, thank God, but he lost some people. But anyway, that's just another story. He told me nothing like
People
that.
want to understand themselves. You want to know what's in there so that you can give permission for it to come out.
Yes, and you are valuable, every one of you. You're precious, every one of you. Yep.
Well, thank you, Dr. John. I know we ran a few minutes over, but I hope this was very valuable for those of you that joined us. Thank you.
Appreciate you
Thank
all.
you,
Dr.
doctor.
John.
It's always a pleasure.
Right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.